Well, from a garden on the range to little homes in the back of the gardens, we're going to be talking about garden sheds all over the United States with a particular emphasis on some beautiful little hidden retreats here in Texas gardens. I'm joined by Debra Prinzing and Bill Wright, who are the authors and photographers of Stylish Sheds and Elegant Hideaways. And it's a beautiful new book, a great addition to the garden literature. And welcome to Central Texas Gardener. It's great to see you guys.
Hi, Tom.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Now tell me how you got intrigued with garden sheds of all things.
You know, I think that my interest is where architecture and horticulture come together, and Bill and I had been lucky enough to work on a photo shoot in 2000 about this wonderful backyard shed in urban Seattle made out of recycled barnwood. A woman named Sunny Rudd, and she just sparked our passion for these separate sanctuaries in people's backyards.
Right.
Kind of built on that.
Right, and that's really what they are, isn't it? They're sanctuaries.
They are. People are drawn to this unplugged nature, like hit the pause button, go out in the garden. All the better if you get to walk through the garden to that hidden doorway and enter your space where you can have the windows open and hear birds singing or smell the fragrances of your wisteria and pursue whatever your passion is.
Yeah, and lots of beautiful images. I have to say congratulations.
Oh, we had a wonderful time doing it, and the most interesting thing was the people we met. And such nice people, especially here in Texas, and I'd never really been to Texas before, and people were so kind to us. So that here we're going to arrive at 4:35 in the morning, and people were just very kind and welcomed us into their garden and said, "Oh, it's all right, we'll get up at 5."
Gardeners tend to be pretty nice people in my book.
They made sure we were fed and gave us caffeine, and that's what we really needed.
That's right.
Absolutely, at 4:30 in the morning. Now, I want to give people a little tour of these garden sheds. I mentioned the home on the range in Bertram, and actually the garden that we featured today is one of the sheds that you've focused on in your book, and it's a lovely space.
That was a really fun story because Sylvia and Steven Williams had a little bit of a his and hers battle going on with their shed that they shared with us, and the compromise was that almost every element of that interior had a guy's purpose and a gal's purpose.
Okay.
So the and we liked these practical solutions we could share with people. The workbench where Steven had his clamps and his tools and did his home improvement projects, Sylvia would sweep all that off, put a tablecloth out, and lay her buffet for when her master gardener friends come over.
That's great.
Yeah, and it was kind of one of those ideas that you think, as humble and utilitarian as it is, it can still have a charm.
That's right. And the shot I love from this particular one is the little kind of entry area with it's covered with an arbor and has a really welcoming feel to it. Just so comfortable and relaxed looking.
It was just beautiful. I mean, when you have something so nice, it makes my job very easy. I mean, I really don't have to work so hard. You know, I have to do my job, but it's almost like getting it on a silver platter.
Well, that one it's prototypically Texas. It's that chopped Texas Hill Country limestone and has a lot of that rustic quality to it. But you had all kinds of Texas sheds. I'm hesitant to call this next one a shed. This is the Zen-like tea porch in the back of another garden that we featured here on Central Texas Gardener.
Well, the Suttons, Eldon and Beverly Sutton, have this wonderful structure that I guess we were calling the Texas Tea House.
Right.
Yes, it was about the same proportions of a dining room, and that was another lesson that we learned, is that if you can keep these structures kind of echoing maybe your most comfortable room of your house, then your furniture seems appropriate in there. You can move around and be comfortable. That had a lot of practicalities because of I guess Beverly had an allergic reaction to insects, and so the screened qualities of the walls. The designer, Gregory Thomas, actually put screening under the floorboards to keep the insects from coming through the cracks, which is another you know, aha moment for us.
Sure.
But we loved that combination of Asian and Texan. That roof line with the standing seam roof was pretty Texan,
and the beautiful pools around it. It was very tastefully set into the backyard, and a stepping stone going down to it. Very, very, I mean,
it knit into the property
just,
well,
all these shapes around it, it really was a joy to photograph.
Well, you know, the thing that I think about it with garden sheds is that they're in the garden, they become the destination.
They do.
And so how you approach them, you know, and tying it all together is really a real important part of the overall design.
Well, it seems like there were two ways people use their structures, and we visited over 100 properties to come up with, we had to bring ourselves to limit it to 28
Sure.
locations in the book. You can either have a garden structure or shed as the focal point of your garden, and maybe the vertical element, the piece of architecture, which then allows you to hang artwork on it, or mirrors, or bird houses, or get the vines to climb up it. But some of them were hidden away at the end of a path, and that's where the other destination came about, where part of the experience was the journey to get you there.
Right, and that's the thing, that there's kind of a wonderful romantic quality about these places, and the hidden spaces to me have great appeal.
Oh yeah, we had a lot of quiet mornings where we realized, why would you ever want to be in your house when you could be out here?
Exactly.
Just a slice of it.
The next one we're going to talk about, be hard to hide. Okay, you call it the Mod Pod. And I've never seen anything like this in a garden.
I'd never seen. Debra took me to see it the night before we were going to photograph it. I had no idea. I couldn't believe it, but it was absolutely one of the neatest things I'd ever seen.
Well, Loretta and Terrell Fisher own it, and actually we got there early, or that evening, to just look at it, and the light was perfect. It was glowing like a little lantern, and Bill whipped out the camera and told us all to get out of the way so he could photograph.
I was like, out of my shot. I mean, get a photographer and the light's good. It's like, no more
exactly.
talking. We're
It's
going
like,
to take some pictures.
you know, got to start working right away.
Yeah, it was just incredible.
Well, Harrison Bates, Loretta's brother, designed that, and the structure was going to originally be a shoebox, you know, just a rectangle, and somehow, using very ordinary materials, just double wall polycarbonate and aluminum framing, he, like origami-wise, twisted the thing and gave it this just fanciful, folly-like effect. But if you really looked at that material, it's off the shelf from a home center, and that's kind of another message we want to give people: is these can be humble and creative at the same time.
Yeah, and boy, this one is just off the charts on the creativity scale, and I love the colors that they've used too, and the fact that it sits in this pool of water.
Yes.
It just kind of sets the whole thing off.
But that was a solution, because they had a problem with when sitting in the house, they could see underneath the Mod Pod, and didn't like, they were going to maybe put some kind of skirting around it, and I don't know, there's a little bit of an argument going on about who thought up the pool.
Okay.
Many people take credit for that.
Okay, it's a very cool idea. I can see why people would want to take credit for that.
It's a place to dangle your toes into.
Okay.
Well, also a very practical function too. She really uses it. It's not just something she just looks at.
That's a good point. She puts her
really
plants
has
in there in the winter.
Plants in there, and her bicycle, and really a useful structure.
And some of them are places where you go to be by yourself. Some are like dining rooms. Some are little work areas.
Yes.
One that you have in the book has its roots in Scandinavia. This very Nordic building with a planted roof, which is beautiful. And this is like this kind of, I don't know, it's like a primitive / elegant pavilion, you know.
Yes. We called it the Nordic hut, I think. A couple that owns that in the Bay Area, they have Nordic heritage in their family, had traveled to see the ancestral home and fell in love with this really utilitarian building called a Arbor, which is apparently where they stored grain. They kind of retrofitted it into a dining pavilion with a sod roof, which I guess is tradition. That thing, I don't think it has a single nail or screw in it.
No, the craftsmanship was just incredible.
Beautiful, beautiful woodwork.
And intricate carvings on the side with Norwegian symbols.
Yeah, the way Bill photographed it, you could actually see where the craftsman had chiseled the wood. And, you know, you just want to touch that and kind of pay homage to the fact that there's so many, you know, prefab mini barns around, and these people took it way beyond and gave themselves a beautiful destination in the garden.
Yeah, and you know, again, going back to the modern, because we're just flitting around here, but there's so much fun to do. And again, going to the creative side, there's one that you feature, the lightbox.
Yes, San Francisco.
Okay.
And this structure, I don't know, how would you describe it? It doesn't have a roof, so
Yeah.
you have to be open-minded about what a shed is.
Okay.
Almost
Well,
an open-air pavilion.
There you go.
The designer, Shirley Alexandra Watts, she's won gold medals at the San Francisco Flower Show. She's really known for her kind of art installations, and somehow she wanted to give this family shelter but also appreciate the sky, because when the sun comes out in San Francisco, you want to enjoy it. And so she took the roof off. Bill has a great photo where you catch a glimpse of the heater that's hanging down the center, and it's a hatchery, gas hatchery lantern or something, but it just fills the space with, you know, very modern blue kind of patterning walls, and it's got this glow. It was, again, very modern. It kind of fit that urban setting though.
Yeah, yeah, and provides a sense of privacy and enclosure and embrace. And again, going back to that sense of sanctuary that all these garden sheds really share in common.
Well, and they kind of come out with one purpose and end up being adopted by many people in the family for other purposes.
Well, it's a beautiful book, Stylish Sheds and Elegant Hideaways. We wish you good success with this. It's a beautiful addition, as I said, to the garden library out there. So thanks for being on Central Texas Gardener.